Ahead of its release next month, we got to check out the upcoming Mouse P.I for hire as part of the final preview, and we got to check it out on our own. Not only does this mean that we got to take our time, play through the game, and see how it really feels so far, but we also got to try it out on the Steam Deck. So in this video, I want to go over the preview and what we think about the game so far, and how it's running on the Steam Deck in this early build. And before we get into it, if you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a big thank you to developer Fumi Games and publisher Playside for allowing us to try out the game before it releases. Now I want to start off by talking about the game itself and what we think about it so far. And honestly, I really enjoy it. Let's get the obvious out of the way first. The art style and animations are just fantastic. Ever since Steamboat Willie went into public domain, developer Fumi Games has brought that rubber hose animation style into the video game world, and it works extremely well. Every single character, weapon, animation, and some building animations have so much expressiveness to them, and it's really endearing and enjoyable to see it in action. A good part of the game just had me watching the animations, just because it was so expressive and enjoyable to see, even if it was just reloading a gun. However, my favorite animation so far is actually picking up a secret figurine. While I was exploring the town, I found this figurine kind of hidden, and once you pick it up, you start looking at it a little bit, and then you start tickling it, and just the way that it starts to crack up and laugh is just so enjoyable to watch. I actually reloaded a save just so I could play that animation again. The only criticism I can think of in this regard is that I wish there was more of it in some areas. There are some spots where there really isn't a lot of this animation happening, and it's mostly in those environments. I understand that the world being very static probably is better for playability, but I wish there was just a little bit more in those areas, which I think would help with the cohesiveness of the art style and animation that they're having throughout the entire game. However, this is a very small criticism, and I still think everything that they have included so far is fantastic. Now, I won't cover the story too much because there really wasn't a lot of it, but I want to talk about the gameplay. And it's a solid first-person shooter. It was very satisfying to go around and killing enemies, and there was a good amount of guns to use in the preview. There was also a generous amount of ammo pickups, but it was all for different guns, which encouraged actually trying multiple guns throughout the entire playthrough. Even still, when I was fighting some of the bosses, I found my perfect combination, which was the poison gun and the shotgun. And having the combination of those two together absolutely demolished. One of the bosses, the final version of fighting Robo Betty, was a little bit on the tougher side, and it was a little bit difficult to manage everything in the first-person view. With her shooting out lasers, bringing out dogs that explode, it was just a little bit too much, especially while I was trying to focus on bringing down her health, while also trying not to explode. I also found that the grunt enemies had a nice balance of bullet spongy and easy to kill, so while it took multiple bullets to kill them, it never felt like I had to empty an entire clip just to take down one enemy. The movement was also very nice, and it made me think of a lot of great boomer shooters as I was running around and killing enemies. It was all balanced really well, and I can't really say too much else other than I really want to play more. I also got to check out a little bit of the progression system where we can upgrade our weapons. It's going to be using these schematics that we find throughout the levels, and each weapon has 3 levels to upgrade. While it is more on the basic side, the upgrades themselves are pretty fantastic, with the first upgrade of each gun actually giving us an alternate firing mode. However, each upgrade does bring a lot with it, so for the boomstick for instance, we get increased damage, pushback max ammo, reduced recoil, bullets pierce the first enemy hit, and that alternate firing mode. And it feels like the other upgrades for the gun also include a good chunk of improvements. There are also some coins that we can use as currency that we get to pick up around the world, but in the preview, I didn't find a chance to use them. However, as I was investigating around the town, I did see a shop that was locked, and I assume that that's where we're probably going to be using them. So overall, I really enjoy the game so far, and I think there is a lot going for it, and I couldn't be more excited for the release. However, I also want to talk about Steam Deck performance. Now before I go into it, again, this is a preview build, which means it is not the finished product. Finished product will most likely perform differently, which I assume would be better, as they're going to be still working on it. So take the Steam Deck performance that we see in this video with a grain of salt. For the majority of my time, it stuck to 60 frames per second. Especially in fights against the grunts, I really never saw it dip below 60, and that's really great. On top of that, because of the black and white world, it looks beautiful on the Steam Deck screen, even though the default settings are a mix of low to medium. There are some bigger areas, and sometimes in that final boss, where the frame rate would go down. And I really only saw it go down to around 48 frames per second, so based on this preview build, we could set it at 45 frames per second, and it should be stable throughout it. So based on this preview build, I would say that the game is going to be pretty great to play on the go. Now, of course, there is more work that's going to get done, and hopefully we can get to a solid 60 frames per second throughout the entire game. And based on the preview, there are still some settings that we could bring down a little bit to possibly make it perform a little better more consistently. However, I wouldn't say it's necessary. The game runs really well already, and in this early build and in this early state, I'm very pleased so far. Of course, there is a little bit more time we have to wait until the game is fully released to give our final statement about it and whether it's actually good to play on the go, but I have a lot of confidence that this is going to be a great one to take wherever you go on your Steam Deck. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. See you next time.